Turkey, the earthquake reached 12 in intensity, which corresponds to a complete disaster. What will happen to Greece? We know that usually a few weeks later, after a big earthquake in Turkey, it also has relation to what happens with big earthquakes in Greece. Seismologist Gerasimos Papadopoulos described the first scientific data on the earthquake in Turkey as nightmarish, which left tens of thousands victims in several cities almost leveled, presenting the data from a report by the Kandili Observatory and Earthquake Research Institute of Istanbul's Boğaziçi University. Mr. Papadopoulos states in his Facebook post that the 7.8 Richter magnitude earthquake in Turkey exceeded magnitude 11, which in some areas on that attached map are in a dark color, approaching grade 12 on the Mercalli-Seiberg scale. Wanting to explain how big this magnitude is, he adds in his post that the next degree, 12, is the maximum, corresponds to complete destruction, and has rarely been observed around the world. According to the same report cited by the seismologist, the destruction zone from the deadly earthquake in Turkey is 290 kilometers long. Especially regarding the buildings, Papadopoulos states that those that suffered third, fourth, and fifth degree damage, hence from significant damage to total collapse, exceed 100,000. 100,000 buildings. The post of Gerasimos Papadopoulos, because we will not have such a disaster in Greece. Naturally, an earthquake of this magnitude has caused concerns and discussions about whether it can cause a large, if not comparable, impact of an earthquake in Greece. On Tuesday night, the president of OASP and professor of geology, Efthimios Lekas of Greece, speaking on the television, said, "If there is one in a 10,000 chance of having such an earthquake, this earthquake will mainly manifest itself in the marine environment within the built environment below major cities. Here, if such an earthquake occurs in the bow that is unlikely, but in the extreme case it will be in the sea," he says. He wishes, we all wish, but we never know. Now, Mr. Lekas, in fact, made a special reference to Akralohori, where he recalled an earthquake occurred just below Akralohori, but we did not have major damages. In Samos, we had no damage except in old abandoned houses, which were hundreds of years old. We should say that the level of earthquake protection of our country is much higher than that of our neighboring country. In Turkey, there were builders who acknowledged, without knowledge of either geosciences or civil engineering, we were not going to see such images of this chaos here in Greece. In Greece, we have a very good anti-earthquake regulation building code. We have practically made sure that there are no such defects that exist in Turkey, and we're improving the regulations for this, and of course, there is no risk, he said. If we had an earthquake in Greece, so many buildings would not fall due to the building regulations that have been enforced since 1984. In other words, we have foundations. I know because I was responsible for building our home, a 3-story house. And not only did we have foundations and underneath the ground, which were like basement and under that, basically 2 floors down for a 3-story building. The foundations were locked. The columns were locked. It's like when you lock your fingers. When you've got your palms together, you lock your fingers. The foundations are locked, so they can't move. If they move, they all move together. The whole building moves together. So that's because we had a very big earthquake in 1981, February of 81, and that's when the building codes changed to make them even more anti-seismic. So regarding the forecasts, no, what did he say here? Sorry. He says if we had this earthquake in Greece, so many buildings would not fall due to the building regulations that have been enforced since 1984. Of the public buildings, there are 16,000 that are of increased interest, such as schools, which should be inspected every 10 years, he said. Regardless, the forecast for an earthquake in Greece above 8 Richter, The president of the Organization of Anti-Seismic Planning and Protection said, "We will never have such an earthquake in Greece, but even if we could have it, you don't say it like that, and you don't say it now in population to population." In other words, he says, if we were to have it, you don't say it like that, and you wouldn't say it now to the population. In other words, he's saying you would be very conservative, and you wouldn't disclose that information, in order not to create panic, I guess. The Greek area is not affected by such faults. Also in Turkey, static engineering bowed to architecture and interests and how the builders wanted to build the houses. In other words, they skimmed on things. This is from News Post, and I've translated this from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box